All right. It said it started at 6:05, so let's get started, I suppose. This video is going to be recorded by Twitch automatically, and I'll also be recording it on my own. So if anybody misses out, they'll be able to watch it later. Firstly, can everybody hear me? Can somebody post a message in chat? Okay, great. Cool. Okay, so let's get started. Thank you for taking the time to be with us while we present our upcoming crafting update with you. That's the first time we've done a presentation like this, I think, so it'd be nice to get feedback on that if that's the kind of thing you'd like to see in the future. Okay, so let's get started. So you're probably wondering who's talking right now. This is me, I'm Jordan. I'm part of the Rat Labs LLC group. I also go by Gimli and Game. In terms of what I normally do, I run our website, tweak the loot tables, manage the economy. It's something that I care a lot about in game balance, and do a little bit of world creation, though not so much lately. It's more of a side thing. And most importantly, I think all players would agree that the thing I do best is I manufacture salt. So, sorry, hopefully this won't be salty for you, but we'll see. Before we get started, I just want to go over some lighthearted things. So, the Realm is a pretty tight-knit community, and our volunteer moderation event and storyline staff make this possible. And by this, I mean it gives us time, and by us, I mean development team, to actually build new features. Without their help, we just wouldn't have space to do this kind of stuff. It would be completely paralyzed with running events or answering customer support tickets. So I just want to do a special shout out to our volunteer staff. For our moderators, it's led by Starry, Ezot, Ice Project, and Shallow are regular moderators, and they do a great job of being the front line of defense for us with players. Our storyline is Alexandra, Hector, and Tavis, who've really picked it up lately and done a great job on behalf of all of the staff. And our event staff, Zoden and Jack B. Nimble, have done a great job. So I don't know if you've been in today, but Zoden was on, I think, all day doing events, and it's great to see that. And combined all these volunteers, it really helps everybody on the staff, especially the development team. So a huge shout out to all of our volunteers. One more thing as well. So I just want to say thank you to all the players. I don't think anybody on staff thought a year ago that we would even be in this position to actually run the realm in an official capacity, and it's been a ton of fun. And players in general, for the most part, have been very receptive and reasonable with understanding that all of us who are helping run the game, both on a staff level in terms of being on Rat Labs and being a volunteer staff, we all have regular lives and regular jobs, and this is something that we do in addition to all of that. So thank you to all the players. You make this worth doing it, so thank you very much. One more thing I'll mention before we go too far. If you have questions, please post in the stream chat and I'll loop back onto it later. I can't see the stream chat right now, so please post it later. If there's too many, I'll get a chance to go through it in a different time, but my plan is to answer all those questions later. Okay, so let's go on to crafting. So there's a couple outcomes specifically that we're trying to get from crafting, and specifically this crafting revamp. So we wanted to create a way to acquire the next tier of armor, specifically Master Gear, so that's the level 750 gear. We want to make gear acquisition in general more accessible to people, so if you're fully decked out in proficient armor, you shouldn't have to just farm endlessly for expert gear in a heroic dungeon over and over again. There should be some other acquisition path that's rewards you over time if you need it. Also, the ability to craft between armor set types. So let's say I have a ton of caster gear, but all of my characters are melee or vice versa. How do I take the stuff that I found in a dungeon and still get value from it, even though I can't directly use those armor sets? The most important one, at least for my personal care, is to provide an effective item sync into the economy. I'll talk more about that later. And also, we'll be introducing new helmets. So all of the master tier helmets are brand new designs. So let's talk about Master Gear first. So I want to explain the difference that uh, the Master Gear tier is versus the Expert tier. So in addition to the existing bonuses that you get just from the next tier up, whether it's MDM bonus, or SDM, or armor rating, or so on, that's still going to happen, but there's an extra level of things that will happen with Master level gear. So for Warlord, you're going to get SDM for the first time. So every piece of armor is going to give you 5% SDM. You're also going to get 5 reinforcement per piece and 5 melee pierce. So with melee pierce on Expert Windwalker gear, it already existed in a lower number. Now Warlord gear will get it at a master level. For Windwalker, you're going to also get 5% SDM per piece, 3 reinforcements, but a higher melee pierce. So I think thematically it's you do more damage, but you take on more risk of being hit and getting hurt, more damage sent to you versus giving it out. And for casters, we'll be adding 5 melee phase to each piece. So if you don't know what melee phase is, the best concrete example I can give is if you've ever fought melee a Fury before, and you're like, wow, I can't hit this Fury because I can hit anything else, no problem, but I swear I'm hitting this Fury like once a round. That's because the Fury has melee phase. So it decreases the chance of you being hit by melee, but also decreases your chance of hitting somebody else's with melee. So it's kind of a trade-off. It's a thing where you won't be able to attack people as effectively if you're melee, but if you're wearing caster gear, you probably shouldn't be attacking with melee anyway. That's kind of strange. So hopefully that's okay. We're going to obviously look at this stuff later and rebalance as needed, but this is the planned rollout of first pass of this gear. Okay, let's talk about item sync. So when I say item sync, what do I mean? Well, it's about creating a means to remove items from the game. You do that by giving items value beyond just wearing them. So if I'm wearing an item and it's proficient and I'm ready for the expert level gear, I'm going to try my best to get the expert gear, but what do I do with my old proficient stuff? What if I keep finding more proficient stuff and I don't need to wear it anymore? It's now kind of valueless to me and I have to sell it and hope that somebody else has value from it, otherwise I can't use it. So trying to find a way to give those items values beyond just purely using them as a character wearing it. So you might say, but why do we need an item sync? Well, it stimulates the economy immediately, so you're giving all these items that you may have found previously, you may have bound previously, value again. And when you create value to those items that beyond just wearing them, now you can actually find this proficient item or take your 10 proficient hats that you no longer need it, and then you can convert them into something that you can use to build something that you can actually use. Also, if it's effective as an item sync, the side effect, which is nice, is we can actually increase drop rates. So if there's far more demand for items than there's supply, that's a signal to us as a dev team to increase the drop rates on them. So there's going to be a tight-knit balance between the effectiveness of the item sync that we're trying to introduce and how we can tweak the drop rates. Okay, let's talk about the new helmet. So each master armor type is going to have a different armor or a helmet design. So for Warlord, it looks like this, a horned helmet. For Windwalker, it looks like this, it's a wolf helmet. Thaumaturgist is a bishop hat, and this is one you've probably seen in Holy Caves. For Necromancer, it's a skulled hood. And for Elementalist, it's a weird octopus thing with an eye. I don't know how to describe it. But these are, if you craft a Master Necromancer hat, you're going to get the skulled hood. If you craft a Master Elementalist hat, you're going to get the octopus thing, and so on. So you'll actually get unique hats based on the Master tier, which will be the first time we've done that. Okay, so let's talk about how we actually craft. So analogy I would take is, let's say you're actually making a shoe for yourself. Well, a shoe has a shoelace, it has a sole, it has fabric around that shoe. It takes many things to build something else. So the way that we're doing it with Realm is we're going to actually have 3 components for each armor slot type. So here's just a quick photo. So for helmets, there's going to be strapping, paddings, and reinforcements. The strapping column might change based thematically on what it is. So for boots, it's a boot sole. For pants, it's a lining. But you always have 3 components, and these components can only be used for things that support that component. So I can't use helmet strappings for pants, for example. I have to use helmet strappings on helmets. So all the items will be composed of different numbers of these 3 subcomponents. So how many components do I need to actually craft something? Well, it actually depends on the tier that you're trying to craft. So for familiar, you're going to need 1 of each. You're going to need 1 strapping, 1 padding, 1 reinforcement. For proficient, you're going to need 2 strappings, 2 paddings, and 2 reinforcement. So and 3 for expert, and then 4 for master. So the higher level and higher tier the armor that you're trying to craft is, will require more of those subcomponents. So all I've shown you so far are components. You might be thinking, so the only thing I need are probably components, and the answer is actually not quite. We're actually having reagents as well. So reagents are special items dropped from specific open world and dungeon bosses. Every time you craft a piece of armor, it will require a reagent. For example, Blood Mauler's Hide or Fulleron's Eye. So everything you can craft will require at least one of these things. However, they're not going to be the most rare things in the world. So the drop rates are tuned based on the tier and the spawn rate. So since it's on both dungeon bosses and open world bosses, obviously dungeon bosses you can get every time you go into that dungeon. So the drop rate on a dungeon boss is going to be lower than one on an open world boss, which are far more rare and contested between the entire world. So drop rates, there are considerations being done with that. And the familiar stuff, which has its own set of reagents, will drop very frequently. And the master level stuff will drop obviously a lot more rare, but it's not going to be a huge hindrance, or it shouldn't be. In terms of what the reagents are, I'm going to show you some of them today, but it's really up to you to discover all of them and where they drop. Just as a little fun experiment. Hopefully you find them all. I think it's pretty obvious where you can find them once you see the recipes that the hammers show you. So let's actually see what an example crafting recipe would look like. So for a proficient warlord helmet, you need 2 paddings, 2 strappings, and 2 reinforcements. So this is in line with the previous slide, which said you need 2 of each for proficient level. And the reagent for this is going to be Fulleron's Eye. So if you get Fulleron's Eye and 2 of each of the subcomponents, you can actually create a proficient warlord helmet. And I've talked a lot about these components, and I've talked about reagents, but I haven't actually explained how you acquire components. So there's 2 main ways to acquire components. You can either get it through salvaging, or you can craft them as well. So to craft a familiar helmet strapping, all it takes is 3 Mabonite. So Mabonite, I don't know if you already have some already, but you can get it through enchanting and failing and blowing up items with enchanting. Since they're going to be on these components now, you can actually salvage the components to get Mabonite as well. For proficient helmet strapping, it takes 3 familiar helmet strappings and 1 Mabonite. So familiar only requires Mabonite. To craft the next tier, you're going to require 3 of the previous tier. To craft expert, you're going to need 3 proficient helmet strappings and 1 Mabonite. Craft master, you're going to need 3 expert helmet strappings and 1 Mabonite. So there's obviously a pattern here. So in general, 3 of the previous tier is going to equal 1 of the next tier of that component. So salvaging. So salvage tools are something new that we're adding, and you can use to break down existing items into their components. However, reagents cannot be salvaged from items. So you can only get the components in Mabonite. You cannot get reagents. You cannot cheat the system. You will have to find those reagents. You can only salvage items that can be crafted. So if you try to salvage a weapon that can't be crafted, you will have wasted 20,000 gold and you have gotten nothing in return. The salvage tool is openly available at the supply stores. Either one is fine. It's a single-use item, and here's a quick demo of what it looks like to use it. So this is actually at the supply store. Here I'm salvaging a familiar warlord helmet, and I get 1 padding, 1 strapping, 1 reinforcement back. I'm going to salvage again, but I'm going to actually salvage the subcomponent, and I get 2 Mabonite back. So that's an example. Now, in terms of salvaging, the success rate of items will change depending on the tier. So the higher level the component, the less success you'll have of salvaging things from that item. So as an example, familiar components, you'll have 100% chance of salvaging all the components that you can get. So by what I mean by that is, if you salvage a familiar helmet and it's made of 1 strapping, 1 padding, and 1 reinforcement, you'll get one of each of those, 100% chance. Expert components is a 50% chance. Now, what's important to say is that the way that the chances work, it's per component. So there will be 1 RNG roll for every component that can be salvaged. So for familiar helmet, there's 3 components. You'll get 3 RNG rolls, which are 100%, so you'll always get 3 things back. For an expert component, there's 9, or an expert helmet, there's 9 components, so you have a 50% chance 9 times for every component you get a roll. So here's an example of salvaging an expert warlord helmet. In this case, I got 6 items back. So let's run through one more time. So there's 9 items or 9 components on the expert helmet, and I got 6 back. So that's actually a slightly better than average salvage. Now, I talked about crafting components and salvaging items and salvaging components, but I haven't talked about how you actually craft the actual armor sets yet from a tool perspective. So unlike before, where there was just one armor smithing hammer, there's going to be 4. So here's what you'll see at the supply store. There's one for each tier of armor that we have right now that's available. The familiar armor smithing hammer can only craft familiar stuff, and this applies to any level. So expert can only craft other expert stuff. For the master tier, you have to be a veteran armor smith, which means you have to get the prestige level to actually craft that. And another new change is you cannot repair armor smithing hammers. So previously you could buy a hammer, use it, it would degrade over time, and then you could repair it and everything would be fine. In this case, once you use your hammer totally up, it's spent and you have to buy a new one. You can buy all these hammers from Beryl, who is the merchant at the supply store, either one east or west. Some more stuff to kind of clean up on. The experience that you gain from crafting has been increased about 100 times. So instead of getting up to 1,000, you can get up to 10 or 20,000. Other crafting tools have been removed from stores and drop tables. You can no longer craft items from them. So the reason for that removal is because the experience has been increased so much. Right now, even if you have a weaponsmithing hammer or an alchemy tool, you will no longer be able to craft items from it. It will just be an empty list of items you can't craft. I've already mentioned this, but it's worth mentioning again, so everybody's clear. If you try to salvage something and it's not salvageable, the tool will get used and you will have lost money for nothing. So that's on you. Sorry, it's a tough thing, but you got to deal with it. Lastly, we will be closely monitoring the drop rates of reagents, so to make sure that they are dropping at a healthy rate that's fair for the tier that they serve. So I've done a lot of hypotheticals and some GIFs showing you it in practice. So you might be wondering, when is this going to come? The answer is very, very soon. It's in testing right now, and the target date, there's no specific date, but the target date range is going to be between January 24th and February 1st. So somewhere around that time frame, we're going to be looking to launch this stuff. I'm going to pause here, and I'm going to take a look and see if there's any questions. Okay. Blah, 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 blah. Let's see here. So you guys have, if you have any questions, now's the chance to ask, because I'm going to go to a live demo next. It's a 100% success rate in crafting. Yes, if you have all the components, you'll get a 100% chance of getting that item. In terms of old crafting, not looking at bringing that back. We might bring alchemy back or weaponsmithing back, but it'll be closer to this system versus the old system. Okay. Okay, so let's go to a live demo. So I will be watching chat in case you have any questions, and I can help you with that. Yes, so question is, to get the helmet mask, you have to salvage the helmet. Yes, that is true. So if you salvage pants, you'll get pant components. If you salvage helmets, you'll get helmet components. You'll never get a mixture. Okay, so I'm on my own personal server here, so I'm going to actually buy a salvage tool, and I'm going to craft a familiar helmet. So I need my familiar armor smithing hammer. And where do I get Mavenite? And I need a bunch of Mavenite. Okay. So let's say I want to craft some familiar stuff. So if I open up this tool, it'll actually tell me all the familiar stuff I can craft. So you see all the components here. At the bottom of this list, you'll see all the items I can craft. So if I try to craft a familiar warlord helmet, it'll tell me that I need one familiar helmet padding, one strapping, one reinforcement, and a Bloody Mary's mirror. Okay. So I'm going to do one of those. So I'm going to do just a helmet strapping for now. And that actually worked because I had 3 Mavenite bought from the store. So it just consumed 3 Mavenite. And I have my familiar helmet strapping. Now I can keep doing that and get enough to build it. I'm just going to cheat a little bit. But before I do that, I want to show you can salvage the components in case you missed that before. So I salvaged my familiar strapping I just created, and I got 2 Mavenites back from that. Okay, so I'm going to do a bit of a side grade, and as an example, so I'm going to get a familiar warlord's helmet. I'll get 2 of them. Actually, I should just need 1. And Bloody Mary's mirror. Let's say I want to craft from this familiar warlord's helmet a, I don't know, Windwalker helmet. So I was like, okay, I can convert between the two, so I'll salvage this, and I'll get 1 of each of the subcomponents back. I have my reagent here, which is Bloody Mary's mirror, which drops from the open world boss Bloody Mary. And now I'm going to go to the familiar Windwalker hat and craft it. So I crafted a familiar Windwalker's bandana here, and I have it. So that would be an example where you can actually side grade between the item combinations. So familiar stuff is really easy to craft because it's familiar. The higher level you go, it's going to be more difficult. So I'm going to try crafting a master item Noble Knight now. So in order to do that, I'm going to need to be a veteran armorsmith or veteran armorsmith in general and get my tool. Now, if you try to use this tool and you don't have enough skill to use it, it will actually tell you that at this point that you lack the skill to use this tool. You'll not be allowed to use it. You can see maybe some of the recipes, but you won't be able to use it. Question was, are the craft items character account bound? They are bind don't equip. You can salvage things that are previously bound though. So this gives you a way to use those items you previously bound. Okay, so I'm going to need a bunch of expert helmets. I don't know how many. I'll just get a bunch. And I want a master level thing. So in order to upgrade to a master strapping and so on, I'm going to need a lot of subcomponents. I need 3 expert strappings to create 1 master strapping, and I need 4 master strappings to craft a master helmet. So in case that's not obvious, I'll just do this real quick. So master helmet strapping, I'm going to need 3 expert helmet strappings. And if I want to craft a master warlord's helmet, I need 4 master helmet paddings, 4 master helmet strappings, reinforcements, and a Fafnir eye. Okay. Question, so people can make and sell the items in the game? Yes. You will be able to craft things and sell it if you so choose. Okay, so I'm just going to salvage a bunch because I'm going to need a lot of stuff. We'll see what my RNG is like. Okay, let's see how much I can craft. So you are gated by stamina a little bit. So I could create 2 of those, none of those, none of those. So let's get more helmets. So what do I have right now? 2 strappings. Just go through and salvage all of these real quick. Oh, I need Mavenite. Duh. Okay, you also need one Mavenite to craft the next tier. That's what I'm missing. Okay, so let me get a bunch of that. Okay, let's try it again. Okay, I have way more than enough. Okay, so I should have 1, 2, 3, 4 reinforcements, 4 padding, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 strapping. So I should have enough to actually craft a master level item now. So if I go to here, it will tell me the only thing I should be missing. Let me just make sure I am missing it. Yes, okay. So the only thing I should be missing is a Fafnir eye. Yep. So one Fafnir eye. Fortunately for me, I have the store which gives it to me. So I have Fafnir eye here. It's going to be pink because it's fabled. And I'll craft my master warlord helm now. And then I got it. And then I can equip it. So now I got it. And there's my master warlord's helmet. Okay. So any questions about how this works right now? Oh, one thing that you might have missed is the act of me crafting that one masterpiece was enough for my veteran armor smithing hammer to break. So I was not able to repair it. So I mentioned before, but you can salvage down existing components. So if I salvage this expert helmet reinforcement back, I should get proficient items here, and I can keep salvaging back down if I would like. And so from that one expert, I can create 3 different familiar helmets. So question here is, does having full stamina give you a better roll on salvage? And it does not. So at least I don't believe so. Uh, any other questions? Okay. If there's no other questions, then that's basically all that I wanted to show you about the crafting system. Um, it is in testing now, so things are subject to change, including the target dates. But this is the plan. So unless anything drastic changes, this is what we'll be shipping between January 24th and February 1st. Weapon salvaging, you will not be able to use weapon salvaging yet. You can salvage familiar stuff, or you can try to enchant things to get Mavenite and blow it up. In terms of whether players have a chance to test, I would like to, but due to the way that this update is going to be delivered, it requires a new client, and the test server operates on the same client that's on production. So it would be nice if we could do that. I'm not sure if we'll have a chance to actually get that rolling. No, you as of right now, you will not be able to buy Mavenite. So that the rationale there is that there's a lot of familiar items that are essentially worthless, and if you salvage familiar items, you'll get a lot of Mavenite. So providing a value on the lowest end of items as well. Also, one thing that might be worth mentioning is the plan is to launch the Master Gear with this color of armor. This color is not available as a dye, so whatever color you pick will be one of those ones that's not available as a dye. Crafting 3K. By 3K, do you mean the next level of prestige? If so, crafting is not coming with the next level of prestige. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Thanks everyone. So I've recorded this stream, so you'll be referred to it later if you missed it. Posted on our website as well, so other people can see it as well. Thanks again for, in general, being very positive about all the stuff that we've been doing on the realm. It's very near and dear to both obviously the players' hearts and also to the development staff's hearts as well. So thank you very much, and if you have questions, please feel free to reach out later.